What happens when four homeless twin girls abandoned and alone on the streets of New York meet a billionaire CEO grieving the loss of his only child at their mother's grave? One innocent answer from the youngest twin will break his heart and spark a life-changing journey neither of them ever saw coming. Stay with us, you won't want to miss how this incredible true story unfolds. Dear friend, what you're about to experience is not just a story. It's a deeply human journey about loss, resilience, and the quiet, unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. If this is your first time here, I invite you to drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing your voice. And if you're someone who believes in second chances and the hidden strength of ordinary people, and in stories that stay with you long after they end, consider subscribing and tapping the bell icon. We share moments that matter. Thank you for being part of this one. Now, let's begin. 4. Homeless. Twin girls and a mysterious encounter at Greenwood Cemetery. How did a man with everything lose the one thing that mattered most? And how could four homeless twin girls wandering the streets of New York change his life forever at the grave of a woman they'd never met? That question would haunt billionaire CEO Ethan Crawford long after one crisp autumn morning at Greenwood Cemetery. It had been 8 years since Ethan last heard his daughter's laughter. 8 hollow years where silence filled every corner of his penthouse every moment of his life. Emily Crawford, his only child, had died at 16 after a brutal battle with leukemia, a fight no amount of money or power could save her from. Since then, the world had grown colder for Ethan. Success meant nothing. His company thrived, but he drifted through life a shell of a man clinging only to one ritual, visiting Emily's grave every month without fail. This particular morning, the sky hung low with steel-gray clouds. Leaves swirled in the wind, crunching beneath Ethan's polished shoes. As he knelt before Emily's headstone, simple, elegant, marked, "Beloved daughter, forever 16," he whispered through clenched emotion, "Hi, sweetheart. Dad's here." But as he brushed fallen leaves from the stone, something caught his eye. A flicker of movement beyond the maples. 4 small figures approached another grave a few plots down. Children. Strikingly alike. 2 pairs of identical twin girls no more than 11 and 6. Their thin jackets barely warded off the cold. They carried wildflowers, their shoes scuffed and thin. Ethan's breath caught. Children didn't often come here alone, especially not 4 together. The eldest, Sophia and Stella, tall for their age with solemn gray eyes, guided the younger pair, Ava and Amelia, who clung to each other. They stopped at a modest marker, "Isabella Martinez, beloved mother, forever in our hearts." As they arranged the flowers with care, Ethan couldn't look away. There was reverence in their movements, a kind of hope that pierced through the cemetery's somber stillness. Then it happened. Amelia, the smallest, glanced up and noticed Ethan watching. With childlike brightness, she waved. He returned a stiff nod. He expected them to turn away, but instead they whispered, conferred, and began walking toward him. "Hello, Mr. Sophia said with remarkable composure. "We didn't mean to bother you. You're not," Ethan replied softly. "I was just visiting," his voice faltered. Amelia peered from behind her sister. "Who are you visiting?" He gestured toward Emily's stone. "My daughter." The girls exchanged glances. Amelia stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Is that Emily?" She pointed at the stone. Ethan's heart twisted. "Yes." "How did you know?" Amelia's voice rang clear. "Mom said, Emily is our angel now. She told us you'd be okay one day." For the first time in 8 years, tears spilled from Ethan's eyes, unbidden, unstoppable. The child's innocent words broke through every wall he'd built since losing Emily. Sophia explained gently, "Our mom was Isabella. She used to be a nurse. She said Emily was very brave. and she promised Emily to watch over you. Your mother was Isabella Martinez, Ethan whispered. He remembered. Isabella had been the nurse who brought laughter into Emily's hospital room on the darkest nights. Mom passed away last winter. Sophia continued, her voice trembling. We've been trying to stay together. We don't have anyone now. Ethan looked at them, thin-tired, but still carrying their mother's hope. Their clothes told a silent story of hardship. His gut clenched. Where are you living? He asked softly. Stella looked down. Mostly wherever's safe. Sometimes in the old train station. The words hit him like a blow. Sophia added, her voice strong despite the pain. But Mom told us good people would find us. We just needed to be brave long enough. In that moment, Ethan Crawford, a man who had believed love was forever lost, felt something shift deep inside. The raw courage of these girls, the invisible thread tying them to his Emily, shattered the armor around his heart. Without thinking, he said, "Would you like to share some flowers with Emily?" Sophia nodded. Together, the girls placed their wildflowers beside the white roses Ethan had brought. 4 tiny hands resting among petals, a gesture of pure love. As the cold wind whispered through the cemetery, Ethan's grief began to loosen its grip. The girls looked up at him not with fear, but with trust. A single thought consumed him. I can't leave them to face this world alone. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. 4 homeless twin girls had walked into his life carrying a promise from a nurse who had once comforted his dying daughter. A promise Ethan was now determined to honor. But he had no idea just how deep that promise would pull him, or how dangerous it would become. Because across the city, a shadow from the twins' past had already begun to stir. And Ethan was about to discover that saving these girls would demand far more than his wealth. It would require the one thing he'd long believed he could no longer give, his heart. The air inside Ethan Crawford's penthouse felt heavier that night, as if the conversation at the cemetery had followed him home. He stood in his vast, sterile living room, a space that once symbolized achievement, now echoing with emptiness. Yet for the first time in years, he sensed a faint flicker of purpose. 4 homeless twin girls had walked into his life carrying a story too raw to ignore. He couldn't let it go. Ethan opened an old drawer in his home office, pulling out a worn, leather-bound journal. Emily's journal. He hadn't dared read it since her death, but something urged him now. Flipping through the pages, his breath caught at a familiar name. Nurse Isabella made today bearable again. She told me about her twin girls, Sophia and Stella, and her second set of twins, Ava and Amelia, 4 beautiful girls. She said they remind her to keep going. I told her I hoped they'd have a dad who loved them very much. Ethan's throat tightened. He set the journal down, hands trembling. Isabella had once worried about her girls, and now they were alone. Driven by a need to understand more, Ethan picked up his phone. There was only one person he trusted for something this sensitive. "Marissa," he said when the line connected. "I need your help." Marissa Chang, a seasoned private investigator, had handled countless cases for Ethan's company, but none like this. Without hesitation, she agreed. "I'll start right away," she promised. "Send me everything you know." Early the next morning, Ethan sat in his glass-walled office at Crawford Technologies, surrounded by the hum of his empire. But today quarterly reports and market forecasts meant nothing. His mind was with 4 fragile lives sleeping somewhere cold. When Marissa's first report arrived, Ethan read it with growing dread. Isabella Martinez had indeed passed away complications from COVID-19 just 6 months prior. In the wake of her death, her husband Carlos Ramirez, a man with a record of petty fraud, had sold their apartment and vanished with over $400,000 in inheritance funds. The girls had not been seen in any school system since Isabella's death. Instead, surveillance footage and witness statements placed them sleeping in an abandoned subway station in Brooklyn. Ethan's stomach churned at the image of 4 young girls in the bowels of the city alone and unseen. Marissa's voice broke through his thoughts. Ethan, these girls are surviving on sheer will. Sophia and Stella have been protecting the younger twins with remarkable courage, but they're in danger every single night. Ethan leaned back, a storm of guilt and determination brewing inside him. Money had once felt like a shield. Now it felt useless in the face of such human suffering. That afternoon, Ethan returned to Greenwood Cemetery. He hoped desperately that the girls would come again. They did. Sophia's eyes widened as she spotted him, but there was no fear, only cautious hope. "I wanted to talk more," Ethan said gently. "Would you all join me for some hot chocolate?" After brief hesitation and whispered agreement, the girls followed him to a nearby cafe, a place buzzing with warmth and the scent of cinnamon. As mugs of steaming cocoa were placed before them, Ethan watched the girls devour the pastries like they hadn't eaten properly in days. His heart clenched. Sophia spoke softly between bites. "We used to have a home. A good one. Mom worked hard, but after she was gone, Carlos came. He said we had to leave. He took Mom's money. We've been moving around since." "Where do you sleep?" Ethan asked, voice tight. Stella hesitated. "Old subway tunnels, mostly. It's warmer down there." Ethan closed his eyes briefly, imagining it. The darkness, the fear. No child should endure that. Ava, her tiny voice brave, added, "We take turns keeping watch so the bad people don't find us." Tears burned behind Ethan's eyes. He swallowed hard. "You're very brave." "All of you," Amelia piped up. "Mom said we had to be. She told us there are still good people out there. We just had to wait." Her innocence shattered him. This wasn't a story of helpless victims. It was a story of unimaginable resilience. Ethan faced a hard truth that afternoon. In a city of millions, 4 remarkable girls had slipped through every safety net. If he walked away now, they might disappear forever. At the office that evening, Marissa arrived with more news. "Carlos is dangerous, Ethan. He's recently connected with known identity thieves. He's also filed a police report accusing you of kidnapping the girls." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I haven't touched legal custody. They came willingly." "That won't matter," Marissa warned. "He's positioning himself to reclaim them for the inheritance money." Ethan's mind raced. He could fight in court, but would the system protect the girls in time? That night, he sat before Emily's photo, her smile forever 16. "Sweetheart," he whispered, voice thick with emotion, "I failed you once. I won't fail them." The next morning, Ethan met the girls again. "Would you let me help? You can stay with me for now. Somewhere safe." Sophia's gaze was wary, protective. "You're sure we don't want to be a problem?" "You could never be," Ethan said softly. "You deserve better. Your mom wanted you safe." "I'll honor that." And with that, 4 tiny hands found his. As they left the cafe together, something shifted within Ethan. For the first time in years, he wasn't walking alone. There was still so much to fight for. Carlos was not finished. But neither was Ethan. He had found a new reason to fight a reason with 4 bright, brave faces and a promise yet to keep. The cold wind cut sharply through the canyons of Manhattan as Ethan Crawford drove toward 157 Tower. In the back seat of his sleek black car sat 4 small girls, huddled together, their wide eyes scanning the towering skyline. This was a world far removed from the damp, dark tunnels they had called home. Sophia sat tall, her chin lifted in wary defiance. Stella held Ava close, while little Amelia pressed her nose to the window, whispering, "It's like the stars came down to live here." Ethan's heart clenched. He had no blueprint for what he was doing. Every instinct as a businessman told him to plan to control, but none of that applied here. All he knew was this: these girls deserved safety, dignity, love, and somehow impossibly they had placed their trust in him. When they arrived at his penthouse, the girls hesitated in the marble foyer, overwhelmed. Ethan knelt to meet their gaze. "This is your home now," he said softly. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." They followed him inside, wide-eyed, unsure. The penthouse was sterile, a monument to Ethan's solitude, glass, steel-cold modern art. Within hours, though, it began to change. Amelia's stuffed rabbit claimed a corner of the couch. Ava's tiny sneakers lay by the door. Sophia and Stella moved carefully, almost reverently, as if testing whether the warmth was real. That evening, they shared a meal takeout pizza at the girls' enthusiastic request. Watching them devour slice after slice, Ethan was struck again by how little they'd had. When Ava asked for a second glass of milk, her voice trembled as if fearing the answer might be no. "You can have as much as you want," Ethan assured her, blinking back tears. Later, as the girls explored the vast space, Ethan retreated to his office where Marissa Chang waited with grim news. "Carlos Ramirez knows the girls are with you," she said, "and he's filed a formal police report claiming you kidnapped them." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "I've done nothing illegal, I know," Marissa said gently. "But legally, Carlos is still their guardian of record. The system won't see the nuance. And he's hired a lawyer." "What's the motive?" Ethan demanded, though the answer was obvious. "Money," Marissa said. "He wants control of the inheritance, and the girls are his leverage." Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't allow the legal process to endanger them. They had suffered enough. "What can we do?" "We build a case," Marissa said. "Document the girls' condition. Gather evidence of Carlos's neglect and fraud. I'll pull every string I can." That night, Ethan tucked the girls into makeshift beds in the guest suite. As he turned to leave, Sophia called softly, "Mr. Crawford." He paused. "Yes, are we safe here?" The weight of the question nearly broke him. "Yes," he whispered. "As long as I breathe, you are safe." For a moment, the mask of strength slipped from Sophia's face, revealing the scared child beneath. Ethan crossed the room and hugged her gently. "You don't have to be the strong one alone anymore." Sophia clung to him for a long moment before whispering, "Thank you." The days that followed were a blur of preparation. Doctors examined the girls, documenting signs of neglect and malnutrition. Marissa gathered financial records, uncovering forged documents and suspicious bank transfers. Slowly, a damning picture of Carlos emerged. But just as progress was being made, an unexpected storm rolled in, a rare blizzard that crippled the city. As the snow piled high and the wind howled, the penthouse lights flickered and went dark. The backup generator kicked in, but the building's systems remained fragile. Ethan moved quickly, gathering the girls in the media room where emergency lights provided a soft glow. They built a blanket fort, trying to make the best of the situation. Suddenly, Ava began to cough, a sharp wheezing sound that escalated quickly. Ava Sophia cried panic in her voice. Ethan rushed over. Ava's small frame shook with each breath. "Asthma." Sophia gasped. "She needs her inhaler." "Where is it?" Ethan demanded. "In my backpack." Ava wheezed. They tore through the room. No inhaler. "It was in the bag when we left." Stella cried. Ethan's mind raced. He grabbed his phone only to find no signal. The landline was dead. The storm had isolated them completely. In that moment, the elevator alarm blared, a warning that someone had overridden the system. Marissa's words came back like a thunderclap. "Carlos is desperate." Ethan moved swiftly, locking the girls in the master bathroom. "Stay here. Do not come out until I say." Sophia's eyes were huge. "Is he coming? I'll handle it," Ethan promised. He retrieved the small pistol he kept locked away, a relic of another life he'd never thought he'd need. Moments later, Carlos burst through the front door, reeking of alcohol, eyes wild. "Where are they?" he snarled. "They're safe," Ethan said coldly. "Leave now, Carlos." Carlos laughed. "Not without my girls. And not without that money." "You've already stolen enough," Ethan said, keeping his voice level. Carlos lunged. Ethan sidestepped, disarming him in a swift move born of desperation and instinct. The gun remained steady in his hand as Carlos writhed on the floor. "You won't win," Carlos spat. "I have a confession from Isabella. She knew what I did. It'll ruin everything for you." Ethan's blood ran cold. A confession. Could Isabella have left something behind? Manipulated by fear, sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. Ethan didn't move, keeping Carlos pinned until the police stormed in. As they dragged Carlos away, Sophia emerged trembling. "Is he gone?" Ethan gathered her into his arms. "He is. And he's never going to hurt you again." Tears streamed down her face. "I was so scared." "So was I," Ethan admitted softly. "But we're together, and that's what matters." In the quiet aftermath, as Ava recovered under careful watch, Ethan realized the fight was far from over. The confession Carlos had mentioned loomed like a shadow, and the custody battle was only beginning. But one thing had changed. The bond between him and the girls was no longer tentative. It was real. When Amelia curled into his lap that night whispering, "You saved us," Ethan knew this wasn't charity or duty anymore. It was family, and he would fight with everything he had to keep them safe. The courtroom was colder than Ethan had imagined. Despite the polished wood and high ceilings, it felt sterile, indifferent until the girls walked in. Sophia led her sisters with quiet dignity, their small hands clutching his. Even Ava, still recovering from the asthma attack, held her chin high. Ethan watched them, heartbreaking with both pride and worry. They had survived so much. Now they had to survive this. Judge Levin, an older man with kind eyes, looked over the papers before him. "Mr. Crawford," he began, "you are seeking emergency guardianship of the Martinez children, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Ethan replied. His voice was steady, but his palms were damp. Across the aisle, Carlos sat in handcuffs, his lawyer, arguing that his client was the rightful guardian. "My client has evidence that Ms. Martinez left a confession." "That document was coerced," Marissa countered firmly. She presented the recording. Marissa had uncovered audio of Carlos boasting about forging signatures and stealing the girl's inheritance. The judge's expression hardened. But evidence alone wasn't enough. The judge turned to Ethan. "Mr. Crawford, you are a billionaire CEO. You live alone. You work long hours. What makes you believe you can provide these girls with a home, not just a roof, but a family?" Ethan drew a breath. "Your Honor, I lost my daughter Emily 8 years ago. Since then, I've lived in silence. These girls didn't just walk into my home. They walked into my heart. I've seen their courage. I've seen their need. And for the first time in years, I know what matters. I won't leave them alone again." The courtroom was silent. Sophia squeezed his hand. Judge Levin studied him. "Very well. Temporary guardianship is granted pending further review." The gavel fell. It was only the beginning, but the weight in Ethan's chest lifted. He looked down at the girls who beamed through tears. Amelia whispered, "We can stay." "You can stay," Ethan promised. Building a family, though, was another journey entirely. The first days back at the penthouse were both beautiful and bewildering. The girls were unused to stability. They hovered near him, unsure whether this new life would vanish like the last. Ethan quickly realized they needed more than comfort. They needed healing. He hired a therapist specializing in childhood trauma, Dr. Elena Kim, who visited weekly. The girls took to her slowly, especially Sophia, who carried the heaviest weight of responsibility. During one session, Sophia finally said, "I had to be the mom. I had to keep them safe." Elena nodded gently. "You did. And now it's okay to let someone else help." That night, Sophia crept into the living room where Ethan sat with a book. Without a word, she curled up beside him, her head on his shoulder. Ethan blinked back tears, gently wrapping an arm around her. No words were needed. Meanwhile, the penthouse transformed. Gone was the cold perfection. Colorful blankets appeared on the couch. Ava and Amelia's drawings filled the refrigerator. Laughter echoed through the halls. One morning, Amelia tugged Ethan's sleeve. "Can we make pancakes?" He hesitated. "I'm not sure I know how." "We can learn," she said brightly. So they did. The kitchen became a chaos of flour and giggles. Sophia tried to maintain order, while Stella flipped lopsided pancakes. Ethan, covered in batter, laughed harder than he had in years. Later, as they ate the misshapen but delicious breakfast, Sophia looked up. "Mr. Crawford, can we call you something else?" Ethan's heart skipped. "What would you like to call me?" She glanced at her sisters. "Dad, if that's okay." The word hit him with staggering force. Tears welled. "That's more than okay. I would be honored." In the weeks that followed, Ethan's life rearranged itself around the girls. He shortened his work hours, attended therapy sessions, and embraced the daily chaos of school runs, music lessons, and bedtime stories. One evening, Sophia found a leather journal among Ethan's belongings, Emily's journal. Tentatively, Ethan shared it with them. They read Emily's words with reverence, tears streaming down their faces. "She sounded so brave," Stella whispered. "She was," Ethan said. "And I think she'd be proud of us." Another day, Ava asked shyly, "Do you think our mom is proud too?" Ethan pulled her close. "I know she is. She loved you more than anything." The most emotional moment came when Marissa delivered the long-lost letter from Isabella, found in a forgotten safety deposit box. Ethan gathered the girls on the couch. Together they read their mother's words. "If you are reading this, my girls have found their way to safety. Ethan, I always hoped you would find them. Please tell them I love them beyond words. Tell Emily thank you, and know that in this we have kept our promise." Tears flowed freely. Sophia clutched the letter. She knew, she really knew. Ethan hugged them tightly. And now we carry her love forward. Through these moments, the broken pieces of 5 lives began to knit together. It wasn't easy. There were still nightmares, still days of doubt, but there was also trust, laughter, and the steady growing certainty of belonging. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed, Ethan sat on the balcony, looking out over the city. Marissa joined him. "You've changed," she observed softly. "They changed me," Ethan replied. "I thought I was done living. Now I'm finally alive." Marissa smiled. "You've built something here, something real." As the city lights twinkled below, Ethan made a silent vow. He would fight for permanent custody. Not for pride, not for redemption, but for love, for family, and no one, not even the shadows of the past, would take that away. The sun filtered gently through the canopy of trees at Greenwood Cemetery, casting golden light on the soft grass below. A year had passed, and though time could never erase what had been lost, it had gently healed what had once felt broken beyond repair. Ethan Crawford stood at the base of 2 headstones, one bearing the name Emily Crawford, the other newly placed beside it, Isabella Martinez. Between them bloomed a fresh bed of blue hydrangeas, Isabella's favorite. The flowers had been planted by 4 pairs of small hands, now a little bigger, stronger, more sure of their place in the world. He glanced behind him where the girls Sophia, Stella, Ava, and Amelia were carefully laying out a picnic blanket. Amelia hummed softly, her hair in 2 braids. Ava cradled a sketchbook in her lap, drawing the flowers they had planted. Stella opened a basket packed with snacks. Sophia sat with her back straight, a calm maturity in her presence that still surprised Ethan daily. They were no longer the frightened, shivering children he had first met in this very place. They were home. Today marked exactly 1 year since their lives collided in the most unexpected way. Ethan took a moment alone beside the graves and whispered, "We made it, Emily. And we're still trying." Every day, a soft hand slipped into his. It was Sophia. "You okay, Dad?" He smiled, the word still warming him every time they used it. "Yeah, just thinking about how far we've come." The family sat down together. They brought Emily's favorite cookies, white chocolate macadamia, and Isabella's recipe for empanadas, lovingly recreated by Sophia with help from YouTube and trial and error. Ethan bit into one and winced. "It's good," he said through a cough. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "There's still a work in progress." "Your mom would be proud," Ethan said, and they all laughed, the moment light but sacred. Later, as the sun dipped lower, the girls presented Ethan with a scrapbook. On the cover, in bold, hand-lettered script, were the words, "Found Family." Inside were snapshots of their year together, their first snowball fight in Central Park, Ava's school play where she played a tree but still managed to steal the show, Ethan's failed attempt at braiding hair captioned "Dad Tried," a Polaroid from their first Father's Day, all 5 of them grinning like fools, pancake batter on their clothes. Each photo told a story not just of moments, but of transformation. On the last page was a blank space beneath which Sophia had written in her careful script for the adventures ahead. Ethan swallowed hard, overcome. "You girls are something else." Amelia snuggled into his side. "You're something else, too." As they packed up, Marisa Chang approached holding a small envelope. "This just came through probate," she explained. "It was in Isabella's safety deposit box, addressed to you and the girls." Sophia opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter written in Isabella's unmistakable looping hand. "My girls, if you're reading this, you found him. I told Emily I would help guide her father back to the light. I didn't know how, but I believed, and now you are living proof that hope is stronger than loss. Ethan, thank you for keeping your heart open. I know it wasn't easy, but you did it. You became the miracle I always prayed for. Take care of them. Tell them I'm proud. Tell Emily thank you. And remember, family isn't who you're born to, it's who you walk through fire for. Love always, Isabella." By the time Sophia finished reading, tears were falling freely, not just from the girls, but from Ethan, too. Even Marissa, ever composed, turned away to wipe her eyes. Ava broke the silence. "She really believed we'd find each other." "She did," Ethan said, his voice thick. "And she was right." That night, back at home, Ethan watched from the doorway as the girls built a fort out of pillows and string lights. They were arguing over who got to be the dragon in their made-up fairy tale. He smiled, stepping back quietly. He found himself in Emily's old room, now transformed into a shared space where all 4 girls sometimes curled up to read or nap. On the shelf was Emily's violin. Carefully, Ethan lifted it, tuning the strings just as he'd seen her do so many times. "Play something," a voice said. He turned to see Amelia in the doorway. Mom said Emily used to play lullabies. Ethan nodded, then began to play, not perfectly, but gently, the way he remembered. The melody drifted through the apartment, soft and full of memories. The girls gathered, sitting cross-legged at his feet. It was a moment suspended in time, a memory being born. When he finished, there was silence, followed by clapping and giggles. "You're better than YouTube," Stella declared. Ethan laughed. "Don't let YouTube hear you say that." That night, as the girls slept, he sat alone on the balcony, the scrapbook in his lap, Isabella's letter beside him. The skyline stretched out before him, glittering with possibility. He thought about Emily, about Isabella, about 4 brave girls who had taught him to feel again. The past would always live with him, but it no longer defined him. Now he had purpose. He had joy. He had a future. And perhaps above all, he had finally understood what family truly meant. Ethan Crawford's life had once been defined by isolation and grief. A billionaire CEO who had built an empire, he was nonetheless a man hollowed out by the loss of his only child, Emily. For 8 long years he walked through life in a fog of emptiness, believing that no amount of success could fill the void left in his heart. Then, on a windswept autumn morning at Greenwood Cemetery, fate intervened. There, amidst the falling leaves, he encountered 4 homeless twin girls, Sophia, Stella, Ava, and Amelia, visiting their mother's grave. What began as a chance meeting soon unraveled into something far deeper, a connection bound by love, by loss, and by a shared promise between 2 mothers who had believed in hope, even in their darkest hours. Ethan had no way of knowing then that these 4 young girls carrying their mother's legacy and a simple message of kindness would change everything. Their innocence and courage pierced through the walls he had built around his heart. In their words, "Mom said Emily is our angel now. She told us you'd be okay." One day Ethan saw a bridge between the life he had lost and the life he could still create. The journey was not easy. Bringing the girls into his home exposed long-hidden wounds and forced Ethan to confront his deepest fears. The legal battle for custody tested every ounce of resolve he had. The shocking betrayal by Carlos Ramirez and the fight to keep the girls safe during a terrifying blizzard left scars that would take time to heal. But through it all, Ethan learned something that no business deal, no fortune could have taught him: the true meaning of family. It wasn't found in boardrooms or bank accounts. It was found in the quiet moments: a lopsided pancake breakfast, a whispered dad in the night, a shared tear over a lost parent. Slowly, the penthouse transformed from a cold monument of solitude into a warm, chaotic, love-filled home. As they stood together a year later at Greenwood Cemetery, honoring both Emily and Isabella, the circle felt complete. The girls had found a father. Ethan had found a reason to live again. Together, they had built something beautiful out of broken pieces. And perhaps that is the most profound lesson of this story. Life often hands us loss, pain, and challenges that seem insurmountable. It's easy to close off, to guard our hearts, to believe that healing is beyond reach. But sometimes, if we remain open, if we choose compassion over fear and connection over isolation, life gives us a second chance. Ethan's story reminds us that family is not always about blood. It is about love, commitment, and the willingness to stand by each other through life's storms. The girl's story teaches us resilience, hope, and the power of believing in goodness even when the world feels dark. In today's fast-paced, often disconnected world, these lessons matter more than ever. We all have opportunities to offer kindness, to extend patience, and to open our hearts even when it feels risky. The rewards can be immeasurable. So as you move through your own life, remember, be the person who shows up when it matters. Be the one who listens, who reaches out, who believes in second chances. Because sometimes the most extraordinary chapters of our lives begin in the most unexpected ways. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving a comment below. Your support inspires us to continue bringing you more powerful, uplifting stories that celebrate the strength of the human spirit. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.